Hello, how are you today? Okay, today we're talking about emotional trust. Now, this is the trust that's not so much about infidelity with other people, but emotional trust is how much can you expose to your partner and expect a respectful and acknowledging comment or act that they support you. So emotional trust is really about supporting the other person under all conditions. Now, most of us, as we define it, emotional trust is when you can tell your partner secrets, intimacies, past wounds, private secrets, and expect them to thoroughly support you and reinforce an acknowledgement that that hurt, perhaps support you by just being there for you. And sometimes we just need a hug. Now, this depends on different people. Let's look at the progression of a relationship and see how this evolves. First, of course, is your initial date. Everybody starts somewhere. So on your initial date, you usually expect to be out there, maybe having dinner and going about your business. And maybe you are just meeting for the first time, so you're sharing the rather superficial things about yourself. You know, the where you grew up, what school you went to, how many brothers and sisters do you have? You know, what was your favorite dog? What did you do as a kid? Those kinds of things that are just very basic. Usually on the first date, we don't reveal everything about our past. We don't tell the secrets. Usually that comes later. Now, what happens if you're on a first date and that person that you're with just needs to unload? Have you ever had that happen to you? I know I have, where the person you're seeing for the first time is actually still mourning in a past relationship, maybe crying over somebody who did them wrong. And instead of giving you the attention that you deserve on a first date, it's all preoccupied with stories about the past. That's the baggage. That's not fun. I've even had someone burst out in tears on my first date, a guy that was crying over someone who left him. And so, quite honestly, you know, you have to choose. Do I want to be that party's therapist, or do I want to be their friend and listen? Or do I want to not have that and just have a different kind of a date where you are the center of attention, which you should be on your first date? But that's different for different people. So you have a different tolerant level. A lot depends on your boundaries and how much you want to either continue a friendship with this person, or are you looking for something romantic? So that depends on you. The most other thing is, as your relationship progresses, we begin to reveal more and more about ourselves, no matter who you are. That's just natural evolution. So you begin to reveal things. And what you want, ideally, is a partner who is truly listening and actually acknowledges your pain and agrees to support you, reinforce you. As I said, maybe just give you a hug. So those are things that happen as you reveal more and more depth of your own past experience. So if it's an emotionally hurtful event, you would hope that your partner is sympathetic enough to afford you a little reassurance, comfort, etc. When you don't get that, that's when you kind of might be in the wrong type of relationship. How does this get mixed up along the way? Well, the first place is, if your first date is a physical hookup, if you're just there to hook up for the evening, then you don't expect anything else from the partner, and that's your choice. If you're an adult, that's what you want to do. But if one party is there to build what they consider a real relationship, and the second party is just there to maybe hook up for the night, you may have the person acknowledge your pain, but really not give two hoots about it. So what are some signs of a partner that's not interested in what you have to say? Well, surely if they're looking around, if they're watching their watch, if they're looking down at the time. And so those are things that you need to evaluate. If you are the kind that maybe jumps into too soon, and your partner happens to be good looking, and you say, oh my God, he's so cute, he's so cute, he's so cute. You forget all about the details of the transaction that you're just talking about. Then of course you're just going to go for it. Now, the difference is when you carry yourself and you're more emotional about it, and you get into this relationship and hook up for the evening, your interpretation of the sexual act physical intimacy, let's face it, it's pleasurable. So your interpretation is, wow, this guy must really love me because he's making love to me. And in his mind or her mind, whoever the opposite one is, that person is considering, oh, great hookup, great hookup. And that's about as far as it goes. And so each go away from the union with a different interpretation. The party who needs the attention is probably not going to get any great sympathy. And as soon as the sexual act is over, the other person turns over and says, all right, good night. I have to get up early for work tomorrow. So in other words, get out. So that happens. And so you may go away feeling like, oh, whoa, he loved me. It was great. He's going to call me. And you wait and wait and wait. And of course, that doesn't happen. So after a person might sleep with you, they will kind of ghost you. If you overloaded them with a whole bunch of emotional garbage, you probably are going to get ghosted. Most people can't handle heavy emotional issues, especially in the beginning. So when you just meet each other, be aware how much you're revealing on your first date, how much you're interacting in a mutually receptive manner. So in other words, one person reveals something, the other party usually receives it with a pleasurable or complimentary response. If you are the one that has to listen while the other person reveals, how are you reacting to that? Are you shutting down? Are you saying, excuse me, I have to go to the ladies' room or a men's room, and then maybe never come back? So be careful how you approach your emotional issues on the first date. So what happens as the time goes by, let's say your date's successful, you both feel pretty good about it, and your relationship continues to go. You get together again and you overlook a lot of transgressions simply because the sexual intimacy was so great. So what happens is that, well, he's so cute. Well, he didn't mean that. He was just preoccupied. He was busy working about something at work, or it's considering other things. But in reality is he meant exactly the way he was acting or she was acting. So the other party who doesn't seem very concerned for your welfare or for supporting you emotionally can very well be preoccupied with their own concerns and what we call self-absorbed. So they're so busy worrying about themselves and what they need, they kind of put you by the wayside and take what they want from you, but leave you emotionally void of getting that reinforcement. So you understand how that works? We have the mutual couple meets. Hopefully they exchange an equal amount of private issues along the way, find a little bit of encouragement as it goes, and then you continue the relationship that way. Ideally, you would want a relationship over time to support you in a number of ways. So that would be, like I said, reinforcement. Sometimes we just need an affirmation. And it's like, oh boy, I can understand how you feel about that. Or, gee, honey, I'm sorry you had a bad day. And that's enough to get through that little crisis and make a person feel reinforced and appreciate it. But over time, let's face it, if you're in a long-term relationship and the years go by, and over time, you would hope that that person could be there for you. If not, you will be emotionally void. You will feel starved for affection or attention from someone who can't appreciate how you feel. So you continually deepen the amount of trust that you can put into your relationship based on the responses you get along the way. So if a person is non-responsive and just says, walks out, okay, you'll get over it, don't worry about it, get over it, they didn't mean it, that becomes a problem. So you have to choose between the emotional trust, and are you basing it on some physical act that you both shared, or are you basing it on true emotional communication? Many people don't ever evolve to a very high level of communication, which means that everything's superficial and everybody goes about their business. If that satisfies you and you're happy, good, more power to you. It's very good. But again, if you rely on that physical intimacy to carry you across the emotional intimacy, there are two different things. So physical intimacy is sort of like the glue that holds the marriage together or the relationship together. But if you are very emotionally needy and your partner happens to be very stoic or non-emotional or very linear thinking where everything just goes along and said, don't worry about it, it'll get better, don't worry. Meanwhile, you're just starving for somebody to hold your hand and say, ouch, I know that hurts. All right. Well, if that doesn't happen and you go on your relationship, as you go on with the relationship, if you become emotionally starved for affection, emotionally needy in the sense that you need more and more. So you may try to corner your partner and say, I want to talk, let's go. And their partner is just too busy or not interested in what you have to say. So what are we looking for in a relationship? That what identifies a healthy, positive trust relationship. A healthy and positive is when you can go to your partner with almost anything and they are supportive for you. They may not agree with everything you have to say. They may not agree with your interpretation, but they can definitely associate with how you are hurt and acknowledge your hurt feelings. And I think that's all we all want most of the time. Somebody to just acknowledge my pain, my hurt, it's whatever it is that you're feeling, or your excitement. Maybe something good happened to you at work and you come home all excited and expect to celebrate, and your partner just says, okay, great. He goes about watching their game or cooking their dinner, or whatever it is that they're doing to keep them so busy from you. So to build a genuinely fulfilling relationship, you have to have a basis of trust. Trust with your emotions, trust with your emotional satisfaction, and trust with your emotional support that you're going to get provided by a partner who cares. Okay, that's what we all want. That's what it's about, going through life with a partner of somebody who cares emotionally. So there you go. So there's your trust. In the beginning, you kind of want to be rather non-specific about your emotional problems or concerns or fears or any dilemma that you might feel, whereas over time, trust builds that this person really cares about me, so I can reveal a little bit more. And the progression of the relationship depends on how well your topics are received, listened to, and acknowledged. And this goes both ways, so it's a two-way street. And ideally, what you want is a relationship wherein we got past all the small indiscretions, but we know in the long run that this person has my true emotional support through the relationship. So remember, there's a difference between physical and emotional intimacy. Okay, when we talk about intimacy in a relationship, most people think of sex or the physical act, but intimacy in a relationship could be emotional as well. So you want both, ideally, and you want them to be healthy. So that would assume that that person meets you on an equal emotional level. They're equally able and mature enough to recognize when you're hurt, how to reinforce your feelings if you're hurt, and how to give you the support and demonstrate that, yes, I really care. And again, that could be anywhere from a slight hug, an acknowledgement, okay, honey, I'm here for you. Or you may need to sit down and talk out the whole issue with them over time. So we all have different abilities in that area, but just know in any relationship, sooner or later that is going to come up, and that is something that you need to work on if you're not as empathetic as your partner would hope. All right, so a deep foundation of trust is necessary in order for a relationship to proceed and to maintain itself over time. And if you're lucky, you have a person who is emotionally protective, supportive, or reinforcing to you, and that would qualify for a very healthy relationship. All right, so now we're talking about emotional trust versus physical trust. You know the differences, and what defines an emotionally healthy relationship. All those qualities we just talked about, and I hope for you that that is what you work on. How do you sensitize somebody who doesn't have that kind of empathy? We'll talk about that in another section. So be sure to check part 2 and part 3 of emotional trust and see how that resonates with you. Now, in the meantime, if you enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button below, and also feel free to comment below. I will respond to you. I promise you, we do check our responses, and looking forward to working with you again. All right, in the meantime, may you always walk in light.